All right, let's talk about Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders. So I made a film study, I believe it was last week, talking about his play. And everyone's saying, what's going wrong with him? Is he a bust? Which is stupid to say after 3 weeks anyway. But when I watched his film, I felt like, he's really not getting an opportunity to do anything. They weren't run blocking particularly well when you run into a wall every time. It's not your fault that you can't get through it. But here in week 4, we saw a much better run blocking performance by this Raiders offensive line. Might have something to do with who they played, but we saw Jeanty with some space, and he looked really good. So let's talk about what he was able to do effectively in this game. First, the play you see on your screen, going to be a run towards the left. And again, you want to see him with some holes to run through here. When this play begins, really good job by the Raiders. There definitely is a running lane for him. Now, there is a linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds, for the Bears, who's right behind Jeanty, trying to catch him. That's by design. You leave the you leave a player all the way towards the offense's right, unblocked, because you're running to the left. But Jeanty has the speed to get by him and still has some shiftiness to move forward and pick up a nice gain. That's not anything that you look at and say, what a job by Jeanty, but that's what you want to see. You want to see him in space more, because then you can allow him to have more opportunities, and that's certainly what we saw. On this play, it didn't happen every time. We still saw the occasional stuffed at the line play. This is a 4th down and 1 situation. And, running backs often, for 4th down and 1, a lot of times they get all the credit on these types of plays, but really their job is to just be a bowling ball, get the ball and run straight forward and hope you can pick up the extra yard. Jeanty is going to take this snap, and, well, that's a bowling ball going up against a concrete pin, I guess. I mean, a player gets right through. What are you supposed to do if you're Ashton Jeanty? Now, it's worth mentioning, so he's going to fumble the football here, and usually I would crush a running back for that, because you got to protect the football. That's your number one job. Even more than getting yards on the play, your number one job is usually to protect the football. But it is 4th down and 1. So, maybe being a little bit loose of it, trying to see if you can get out of this, is more forgivable in this specific situation. Watch, he continues to fight, ends up losing the football. Again, sometimes it does, you have it, try to protect it, and it just happens to pop out, and it's not that you're being loose with it. Always hard to tell with the broadcast angle. It hurts field position, but ultimately, field position matters. That's 15 yards. You don't love that. But if that was the worst play of the game for Jeanty, which I think it was, you're certainly not going to crush him too much for it. One thing we've seen from Jeanty, this is part of his play style, is going to be shown on a play like this, sort of a more up-the-middle run here. Watch as when Geno Smith gives the ball to Jeanty, up the middle, there isn't a lot there, right? I mean, he could just put his head forward and try and probably get around the 1st down marker, which, hey, that works. That'll get you 3 yards. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not Jeanty's play style. Watch him instead bounce a bit to the outside, and now you have a defensive back who has to tackle him. But this play's already worked. He's already gotten around the 1st down marker, so it was already a good move. But also, it's really hard for defensive backs to bring him down. Watch as he's able to really break that tackle. It wasn't until a few guys were able to get a hand on him that he finally went down. But again, that's part of the play style of him, of he knows that he is a difficult player to bring down, and if that's what you are, then use that to your advantage. And heading over here, not just in the rushing game, but also in the passing game. So this play is going to be a man coverage concept, and they're going to send him out just towards the flat, towards the top of the screen right here. And watch as when Geno Smith takes the snap, it's kind of like a play action. They fake the jet sweep and then look over in Jeanty's direction. And because they got the Chicago player who was in charge of covering Ashton Jeanty, that's Noah Sewell, the linebacker, who's playing a potential run for a bit. Now he's just a step out of position. For a lot of players that might not matter too much, you might be able to still run over and catch them. But Smith's going to make a pretty nice throw, actually a bit high, but really Jeanty just breaks the tackle. I think if that's, there was pressure, if that's right on the money, Jeanty might just be able to turn the corner and get to the end zone that way. Instead, he has to break a tackle, but he makes it look easy, and he gets into the end zone for a touchdown. So, again, for a player who was not considered the largest back, for a guy who was partially known for getting guys to miss him, the fact that he's breaking tackles the way he is in the NFL, to me, is very promising and shows that, this is the same guy we saw at Boise State. This is going to work in the NFL. This one's another one where this is, towards the end of the third quarter, you have zone coverage. Jeanty is once again just going to try and, it's such a different play, but it's just a sort of a check down. So you have concepts going further down the field, but if nothing else is open, just hit Jeanty underneath. Maybe he can make a man miss and get into the end zone. That's legitimately the play here. So Geno Smith takes a snap, looks down the field, but again, things are so tight in the red zone, nothing's really available there. So they're hitting Jeanty essentially with the logic of either you'll, at least get a few more yards, make it a more convertible third down and goal situation, or this is going to happen. Watch, again, another broken tackle. That's Tremaine Edmonds not being able to make that play by Chicago. So, again, he's a tough guy to bring down. And even with these NFL players, it's still a tough guy to bring down. And getting him in space, I actually think using him in the passing game makes a lot of sense. He's so good in open space. Utilize that. A play like this was the highlight reel level play. So you see, he takes a snap. It's relatively well blocked. There is a Chicago player kind of right in the middle of things that if he can, get a hand on Jeanty and bring him down, well, then, run's not going to go for too much. But watch Jeanty break that tackle. It's like he's covered in butter or something. He just slides off of him. You now have a defensive back who's trying to keep up with Jeanty, and that's just the value of Ashton Jeanty, right? Is he's strong enough that he can break a tackle from a defensive lineman and watch him outrun and ultimately break this tackle as well. Maybe he is covered in butter. No one can seemingly get a hold of him. He gets into the end zone for a touchdown. Did kind of drop the ball right at the goal line. I thought maybe just, again, watching the Colts, got to make sure that you at least, hold on to it for a bit longer. But nonetheless, he was in for the touchdown there, so he has 3 touchdowns on the day, the 2 receiving and the rushing. And again, you think about, there's all the talk of what is the value with a running back? Is it worth a 6th overall pick? And those are totally fair conversations to have. But on this specific play, he was going to go for 1 yard, and instead he turned it into a 64-yard touchdown. That's valuable. It just is. But this is really what we saw mostly and what you want to see, which is on a first down and 20. Smith is going to take the snap, hands the ball off to Jeanty. There's a window for him to run through, and it's just maximizing the play as designed, right? Yes, those plays that I showed you earlier are the awesome ones, but you see he can also just do the day-to-day stuff, right? You want the splash plays. Quite frankly, what made Saquon Barkley so valuable last year wasn't that every play he was gaining an extra 5 yards. It was that he was doing his job, like you see Jeanty do on this play, and then he had the seemingly every other game he was getting a 70-yard touchdown out of nothing. That was adding to value, right? That's really where running back's value comes from, is the splash plays. But you got to make sure you can do the day-to-day stuff as well, which he can. So does the blue-collar stuff and then does the superstar level stuff. And that's why he was drafted with such a high draft pick, and why even me, as someone who's don't draft a running back, that high guy, I kind of get it with Jeanty. I understand the logic because he's a special talent, and we're seeing him, show that in this game. So probably not going to happen every game, just because Raiders have another offensive line injury now. Colton Miller, who's a great player, he got banged up. You can't expect them to have the running lanes that they had in this game consistently, but to me, this shows if you give him the running lanes, he can be successful. At least that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.